Hello and welcome to the Integrity Sports Podcast. We are powered each week by our friends at Harper's Tree and Stump Removal. If you have any tree trimming, tree removal, or stump removal needs, our friends at Harper's Tree and Stump Removal have you covered. They can haul rock and sand, they can do driveway work, they can build ponds or repair pond dams, and can now do horizontal grindings. Give our friends Keith a call at 229-314-2048 or at 229-938-2412. Harper's Tree and Stump Removal is the proud premier sponsor of the Integrity Sports Podcast.
Welcome to the Integrity Sports Podcast, covering local sports in the Southwest Georgia area, creating content that is factual, positive, and informative, promoting efforts by athletes, coaches, and sports administrators. Now, here's your host, Tim Estes.
Hello, and thank you for making the Integrity Sports Podcast a part of your weekly routine. We are live at the Roman Oven Pizzeria in the Americus Village Shopping Center. We'd love to have you come by and say hello to us, eat a good meal here, and let's talk some high school football. I'm your host, Tim Estes. Glad to be joined in studio tonight by the legendary prognosticator, Scott Westbrook. Scott, two of our area teams last week were off, that being Sumter County and Schley County. And what a huge game for Southand Academy last week. I'm looking forward to talking some about that. This week, we got a full slate of games, and it gives us a lot to talk about.
It was. I tell you, last week we were struggling, and it was very few games going on, but the one that we did get to listen to or participate in or follow was an exciting and a big win for Southland. I enjoyed listening to Coach Kinslow and Donnie, and Coach Kinslow educating Donnie on a few things during the game. I enjoyed that, and so it was nice to be able to sit back and enjoy and listen to a Southland game for a change.
We have been talking all year long, Scott, about the tough schedule that Southland played and how that would prepare them for region play. I think we saw the fruits of that last week.
I think, every week we talk about it. Southland is playing inspired football. I mean, that's just it. Kudos to the coaches and players and fans that are really fanning the flames of the team and keeping them focused, even though they've got some injuries they're dealing with. Numbers wise, they're facing teams. I mean, it's a lot of Friday nights. It's a David and Goliath situation. They'll sit there and they'll face teams that have twice as many on the sidelines and got a lot more depth. And then Southland either will remain close in those games or, like last week, win easily or handily. They were able to go in there in a foreign land and at least you and I picked them to win.
Yeah.
But we didn't know we were going to win by that much.
That's right.
So it was.
I think both of us felt like it would be pretty close.
Mm-hmm.
What we're speaking of is Southland's 21-7 win over Trinity Christian over in Dublin. That puts the Raiders now at 2-6 on the season. Scott, this week, their opponent's going to be Robert Toombs Christian. And as we've researched the Crusaders, they come into this contest 2-4, very much like Southland. They only have about 26, 27 players. They've played a really good schedule, and that's why you see them at 2-4. Ought to be a really good ball game this Friday night.
It ought to be, but what we talk about a lot of times, what you need to watch, it really don't matter what has happened in the first half of the season at this point. Right now, you're looking to see what teams are going to peak and what teams are going to have momentum going into the playoffs. And that's what we're looking at. I mean, you've got two evenly matched teams, both are dealing with their own injury issues, their own numbers issue, but South. Momentum and going to this game should go.
Continued to do the game plan. They pounded the defensive line. Crusader defense. And the Raiders wing tee attack throughout the second half. Maybe that gets us back on.
I said we were just talking about before the little technical difficulty that Walker has really had a great game last week. Heard his name called several times, as well as Simmons and Stick. Both of them did well, and just the team as a whole. Really, the team as a whole. You're really hesitant to call out key performers in a victory last week because that was a team win, and it stretches and spills over into the coaching staff as well.
The Crusaders of Robert Toombs, who is Southland's opponent this week, come in at 2-4. When we looked at their schedule, they had a win over Pinewood Christian, who's 2-6 right now. They dropped game 2 to a Class A opponent, Edmund Burke, who's pretty good. They're 6-1. In game 3, they picked up a win over a winless Thomas Jefferson Academy. Thomas Jefferson right now at 0-7. Robert Toombs is currently on a 3-game losing streak with losses to Bullock Academy, who's a AAA school at 7-0. Briarwood Academy, who's a AA school, who's 6-0. And Southwest Georgia Academy, who is currently ranked number 2 in GIAA Class AA. They're 6-1. So there you go, 3 straight tough opponents. These are 2 teams that I think will be evenly matched, that both come into Harvey Simpson Stadium on a high and having been battle tested. This is going to be a tough one to pick.
It is because Robert Toombs, like you said, the losses they've had have been against quality opponents. I'm sure they have to play Bullock Academy because they're in relatively close proximity. I have a nephew who's going to be a rising star at Bullock Academy. And so I know a little bit about them, and they always perform well. But the other schools are schools that's got strong winning records. So, I think that I talk about Southland coming in with a lot of confidence. I'm thinking that the Crusaders, Robert Toombs Academy, they're going to be coming in with a lot of confidence and really wanting to get, to snap that losing streak they've got right now. So you've got kind of a tale of 2 cities. You've got one that's kind of seemed to be on an upward trend with Southland, and Robert Toombs is they're hungry enough to try to stop the losing streak and try to gain some momentum going to the playoffs.
When you look at the current GIAA AA rankings, Southland right now at 6th. I couldn't find Robert Toombs. And Scott, what I have discovered is Robert Toombs is actually a 1A school, but they combine Class 1A and 2A in the 11-man football game for GIAA so that everybody will have a quality region schedule. They break those out once it gets to playoff time. So once we get to the playoffs, Robert Toombs will actually drop down and play in the single-A playoffs.
Okay. Well, they're still going to be a quality opponent, and I don't think Southland nor the coaching staff is taking them lightly.
Kickoff's going to be at 7:30. That'll be Friday night at Harvey Simpson Stadium. So Raider fans, get out and take a look at that. Today's program is also brought to you by One Digital Solutions. They're a steward for business growth and personal development. One Digital resolves real problems by fusing together real solutions for your business and for your employees. They do this by providing a tech-enabled, customized solution to things like human resources, financial services, and employee benefits. It's everything all in one. It's One Digital. Contact Will Peterson today at 229-347-6289 and let One Digital Solutions begin helping you today. That has us done with Southland Academy. We move on now to Schley County. The Wildcats come into this week with a record of 4-4. This past week, they had an off week, and Friday will play at Central of Talbotton. Central of Talbotton right now is at 1-5. The Wildcats did have their bye week this past week, and it gave them a chance to heal up, to rest up, and prepare for their final 2 games of the regular season. Their second bye week, Scott, interestingly enough, comes after the next 2 weeks. So they'll have a full week between the playoffs.
And that'll be key. That'll be key to them. Hopefully they won't, if they're gaining momentum and win these last 2, as I suspect they will, then maybe that hopefully won't throw water on their momentum and for a good playoff run.
And this week's opponent, Central of Talbotton, who's 1-5, their only win was a 37-20 win on opening weekend against Southwest Georgia's STEM Charter, who's in their first year of fielding a football team. Last week, Taylor County defeated Central of Talbotton 42-0. Scott, I think this is just one of those games that you go out and you get a big lead early, and you let as many of those guys that don't see much playing time get some playing time.
I think you jump on. I think your goal is to be, at least after the first quarter, be 3 scores up. By halftime, be 5 scores up. Otherwise, you sit there and take your foot off the gas, or go in there and give a half effort. You'll find yourself close to a team that all of a sudden have some confidence. And they do have a victory this year. And Central Talbotton, we watch them year in and year out, and I just have a lot of empathy for the kids that go out there and play year in and year out. And I just keep thinking the optimism that they have, they got to figure eventually they're going to turn this around, because Central Talbotton's always had good athletes and everything. It's just they probably, like a lot of schools, have a lot of kids that's walking the halls who should be playing football, that are maybe consider themselves a one-sport athlete and maybe just playing, either basketball or track or whatever, and decide to take football season off. But they desperately need all those kids out there to sit there and turn that program around.
When you look at the region that Schley County plays in, Macon County is at 4-3. They're 3-0 in the region. Schley County right now sitting at second at 4-4. They're 3-1 in the region. Taylor County is at 5-2. They're at 2-1 in the region. Marion County at 3-4. So it's setting up for a really neat matchup in the final week of the regular season. You're going to have Taylor County playing Macon County and Schley County taking on Marion. So that's your top 4 teams in the region, all matched up against each other, and a lot of things could happen.
Yeah, the rivalry of Marion and Schley is heartfelt and passionate as any in the area. It's there's been some really heated games in the past 10 years. I expect them to be like this year, regardless of the records, whenever it happens. But the Taylor and Macon County has got kind of a little key component to it. Macon County has a player on their team that started the season at Taylor County. One of their better players, one of their star players, is now getting a lot of playing time at Macon County. So, that'll be interesting to watch and see how all that plays out.
I'm sure a lot of emotions will happen on both sides there.
It will. That will be a game that I'll be trying to kind of pay attention from my press box and texting some of my buddies, and hopefully keep me posted on that game also.
It'll also be interesting, Scott, if Taylor were to upset Macon County.
Mm-hmm.
That throws a monkey in the apple cart there, because you'd have 3 teams all tied. Macon County would have beaten Schley. Schley beat Taylor. Taylor beat Macon. Gabe Tice, the athletic director at Schley County, tells us that they're going to take all 3 teams and figure out the points allowed just between those 3 teams. Well, we gave up 46 to Macon County and 20 to Taylor. So we're behind the 8 ball all of a sudden. So do you go into that as a Schley County fan hoping that Macon County takes care of business?
You do. You're obviously, rooting for Macon County to where it doesn't have to go to some, mathematical equation that, it cracks me up that what they determine from one year to the next, how they're going to settle this. But and I think maybe it's going to be just the points allowed amongst the common opponents. It's not going to be the whole season.
Right.
It's just going to be those 3 opponents. So yeah, I mean it was a high scoring affair whenever when Macon and Schley played each other. So you really kind of, as a Schley fan, I think you're rooting for Macon, but I'm telling you, Taylor is going to do a lot like Southland and play some inspired football because, one of their former teammates is on the other sideline, and we'll be playing a good bit of the game.
Yeah, Taylor County really coming on strong. Marion County, our opponent in 2 weeks, has really come on strong. They started at 1-4, and now here they are in the 4th spot and a chance to really do some damage, and nothing that they would like more than to upset the Schley County Wildcats.
If you sit there, you take them lightly. They're gonna play above their head, and you hear a lot of people say that's going to be their Super Bowl. Well, that's going to be their Super Bowl. They've been on the receiving end of some pretty strong Schley County teams these past few years, and they're ready to kind of turn the tide a little bit.
We are at the Roman Oven Pizzeria in the VIP room. We got a lot of folks out in the lobby going through the buffet line. Come by and say hey to us if you're in the area. We'd love to have you. We're here every Thursday night and will be until the high school playoffs are complete. Our program today is also brought to you in part by the Marty McDonald State Farm Insurance Agency. They're located at 925 Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. You can give them a call at 928-3686 or look them up on Facebook. Drop by and see Marty, Mary Lynn, or any of their fine staff and let them discuss your insurance needs with you. They can even do the famous discount double check. That helps to ensure you're receiving all of the savings that are available to you. Thanks again to Marty McDonald State Farm for sponsoring this segment of the Integrity Sports Podcast. And remember, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. That gets us to the Sumter County High School Panthers. They are actually playing right now as Scott and I come to you live. They're in Columbus taking on Carver. Sumter County at 7-0, Carver at 6-1. Both teams undefeated in the region. Scott, the Panthers had an off week to kind of rest up for this game and get prepared. It's going to be interesting to see how this comes out.
It is. We were listening to it a little bit before the show tonight. So if anybody wants to type in and if there's been a score, please post a comment on the message board and let us know if you've got a score, because we. Of course, I'm tickled to death that I'm going to have something to listen to on my way back to Butler tonight, be able to listen to that game, even though I'll probably lose service about that between Ellaville and Butler. But, this has been the game that we've been waiting on all season. This has been the game that I guarantee you Coach Rogers and Sumter County's had circled. They started off the game, as we listen tonight, they started off with a trick play.
Yeah.
Carver was chomping at the bit and read it and was overly aggressive. Probably, Coach Rogers would probably like to have that play back and maybe had it a little later in the game, perhaps whenever the Carver gotten a little more tired, or a little tighter in the game. But hey, you come out, you're trying to win a big game. You're trying to plant your flag in the region and say, hey, there's a new sheriff in town, and they're from America, so they're not from Columbus. So you can have a region made up of all Columbus teams, and one team from Sumter County, and Sumter County is flying high. They had a week off. Nothing more than you and I would like to see. Talking about next week is a victory over Carver and them in the driver's seat to win the region championship.
That's right. And Carver got off to a little bit of a slow start this year. They played Whitewater and had a close win against them, close win against Spencer. Then they dropped a game. Harris County came in and surprised them. Harris, a good program, but you don't think of them being in the level with Carver usually. But Harris County beat them 15-7. But since then, Scott, a three-game streak where Carver didn't allow a point. So in their last 4 games, Carver's only allowed 7 points.
I'm not a football or high school football expert, but I can tell you exactly what happened with this Harris County game. They took Harris County a little too lightly. Harris County hung around and ended up beating them. And the next week, practice was pretty difficult for the Carver football team, I can assure you. And they have played wide open since then. It was kind of like one of those games where, when the University of Florida lost that game and Tim Tebow said, we won't lose another game.
Yeah.
I mean, I guarantee you they didn't probably come out and say, but I guarantee the coaches said, hey, y'all want to, another week of practice like this, lose another one against a team like Harris County that you take too lightly, and you'll find out again. And that's they've answered the challenge. So let's just see what happens tonight.
If Sumter County were to win tonight, you could safely assume that they'd get the region title. They only have 2 games remaining. If Carver wins tonight, their only 2 games remaining are Kendrick and Jordan, who are the last 2 teams in the region. That's almost a given that they would win those games. Sumter County has Hardaway and Columbus, who are the next 2 above Kendrick and Jordan. So both of these teams playing for a lot tonight in Columbus. Kickoff was at 7 o'clock. If you want to listen to that game, finish listening to the podcast and then flip over to 94.7 WDEC, and Donnie McCrary, Doug Gooden, and Logan Luton can bring you the action there. Today's program is also brought to you in part by the Fish House Restaurant, located at 224 North Jackson Street in Americus. They offer some of the freshest seafood in all of Southwest Georgia. They're located at 224 North Jackson Street. If it's fresh fish, shrimp, or oysters in their seafood center, or a hot meal and a cold drink in the Fish House next door, owner Mark Tyler and his staff want to serve you tonight. Give them a call at 924-5177. You can place a to-go order just like that as well, but go by and sit down with Mark and his staff and let the Fish House feed you tonight. The Fish House, proud to be a sponsor here on the Integrity Sports Podcast. A few other area games we want to mention, Scott. We got to mention Lee County. Lee County, we thought, would have a really close one last week. It was a huge game with undefeated Coffee County, and Lee County dominated.
Yeah, because it was in Leesburg, and maybe, I don't know if Coffee County was coming in and maybe playing a little bit stronger than in early part of the season, and then maybe didn't realize that the hurricane that they were going to hit when they got to Leesburg, but Lee County put their foot on their neck and didn't slow down after that. So
Logan Luton, who's been with us a few times here on the podcast, got to attend this game and tells us Lee County had 6 touchdowns. 5 of them were rushing. Their quarterback, Weston Bryan, dominated the ball rushing. 4-star commit, of course, running back Usmane Chroma had 2 touchdowns, and boy, one of those has gone viral. It's amazing. You need to look that up. He's a really good running back. He's committed to the Dogs. Coffee was heavily penalized. They had a lot of penalties in this game, but Lee County ends up winning 48-14. This week, Lee County at 7-0 takes on Veterans High School out of Bon Air, who's 0-7. And Scott, if I'm not mistaken, this was the largest margin of victory that the Georgia High School Football Daily predicted statewide. Lee County a 56-point favorite.
And then I'd be scared to take those points too, to be honest with you, because you got a 7-0 team playing an 0-7 team, and you got a team that, if Coffee County didn't want to tackle him, I guarantee you Veterans ain't going to want to tackle him. So, you've got to hopefully Veterans has got some sort of game plan, maybe to slow things down a little bit, milk a little clock, keep the points off the board. That's really all they can hope for at this point. Much like Taylor has had success against Slide these past few years with that same game plan, I would think Veterans would probably do the same thing against Lee County. But you just can't. If they're going to give the ball to the running back and he's going to, at Lee County, he can score anytime he touches the ball.
We want to thank Rusty Sears. Rusty has texted in and let us know that Carver is up 10-0. Is that right?
Well, that was going to be part of my prediction, but you just sat there. I was going to make that my prediction that Carver would probably get a 10-0 lead on them. But since you've been ahead and
you predicted correctly.
You did. I shouldn't have showed you Rusty's text. Rusty, thank you for doing that. I'll work that in next time.
Marion County, Scott, at 3-4. They'll host Macon County. That's an interesting matchup.
It is. Macon's favored by 14. I would take the points plus.
Yeah. I
really would. Macon County is the only thing that Marion County can really hope for in that game is that Macon County's looking towards the following week. That's because Macon County's playing strong football. They're beating the teams they're supposed to beat, and Marion County's a team Macon County's supposed to beat.
So you and I both going to go Macon County
Yes.
in this one.
Mhm.
And finally, Taylor County at 5-2.
And I should just say because, I thought they were a better team. When Chatco played Schley, I thought, they were a better team than what the game, what the score showed. But I mean, Taylor County's picked by 26. Taylor County's doing very well, playing some great football right now. I think they'll beat Chatco by 26.
I do too, and I think they're going in two different directions.
Yeah,
Chatco's kind of fallen off as the season's gone along. Taylor County certainly has gotten better, especially on offense.
Mm-hmm.
So it brings us to prediction time for our three local teams. Southland Academy at 2-6. They play host to Robert Toombs Christian, who's 2-4. Scott, I'll let you go first on this one.
Southland's favored by 2. You and I have always said that we're not going to be. I mean, we may be homers with some of the stuff we say, but when it comes time to picking the games, we're going to pick who we really think is going to win. And then it ends up being kind of some friendly joking you and I have on Friday night when
That's
you and
right.
I pick two different teams and we land on the opposite sides on picks. But I'm telling you, even though Southland had some bad injury reports this week, and
I'm glad you mentioned that. I forgot to mention that in our report on Southland. Found out that Davis Daniel going to be out for the rest of the season, it looks like, for Southland Academy. And, boy, he's had a great year. Hate to see that for David.
I do. But nevertheless, they have sat there, and each week, I mean, just listening to the game last week, that just you can almost sense it through the radio broadcast that Southland, they were going to leave Dublin with no regrets last week, and I think that's the rest of the way they're going to play the rest of the season. We are not going to have any regrets. We're going to believe in this wing team. We're going to run it like we've been coached, and they're starting to have really good success with it. And I think they will again this week, and I think they'll win by 2 easily.
I think you're right. Robert Toombs going to be a very formidable opponent, but they also are like Southland. They don't have a lot of numbers, but this is at Southland Academy at Harvey Simpson Stadium. I think the Raiders win out in the end. Schley County travels to Central of Talbotton. Scott, I'll take the lead on this one. I'm going to say 40-plus point win for the Wildcats.
Schley's favored by 48. And I tell you, the only way I would be concerned is if Schley ends the first quarter and they're only up like 7-0 or 6-0 or 8-0. That would worry me because that would tell me they're taking Central Talbotton a little too lightly. They should, they should at least be up by 14 after the first quarter on paper. But now, we don't play the games on paper. We play them on the field. So if you take a team like Central Talbotton lightly, you let them hang around and you let them get a little bit of confidence. We've seen it happen too many times. I'm still going to say Schley County's going to win by 48. I just don't want them to take this team for granted and think it's a cakewalk.
And finally, Sumter County playing Carver of Columbus right now. And Scott, I had in my mind that Carver would take this game. And let me tell you why. And we're Will Rogers fans 100%. We're Panther fans. We're excited about what they've done. And they're close to kicking that door in. But I think Carver is still the elite team in that region. Sumter's going to have to beat them to prove that they've taken over as the elite team. I still think they're 1 year away from that. I think Sumter County will end the regular season at 9-1, which is a huge improvement. But I think Carver's going to be a little too much tonight.
Even though we both know that Carver's up by 10, they were picked by 9. I agree with you 100%. They are the king until they're kicked off the throne. But just for interest, and I guess they talk about fans and fanatics sometimes do what they shouldn't do. I'm going to pick Sumter County on this one. I'm just going to sit there, even though they're down by 10, even though they're playing in Columbus, even though Carver is obviously wide open right now. I guess my desire to see Sumter County take over the region and for Coach Rogers and the young men over there to really have a short ride back to Americas tonight. I'm gonna root for them to win, but I'm gonna pick them to win just so we're not 100% down the board.
There you go. We also got some softball to talk about, Scott. It's been a cool week of playoff softball. Cool in the fact we got to watch it, and cool in weather. It was kind of cold last night out at Schley County. The Lady Wildcats took on Mount Zion of Carroll in the first round of the GHSA Class A Division II state playoffs. The Lady Wildcats get a 4-1 win in game one in the best 2 out of 3 series, and then blew it open 13-1, I think was the final in game 2. So they advance now to the second round. We understand that Claxton, who was a 4 seed, upset Wheeler County, who was the 1 seed. They split yesterday, had to play today. Claxton beats them 12-11 is the report that we're getting. If that's accurate, that means Claxton has to come to Schley County on Tuesday. So we hope you'll pay attention to that.
About the Claxton, one thing I'm hoping the Claxton fans will come and feel welcome in Ellaville. I'm hoping they don't hold any grudges against Schley County, because the last time Schley County went to Claxton, I think there's some not intentional damage done to some of their facilities, but there was some damage done to their facilities that was taken.
I don't even think they're playing in the same stadium.
No. I think they partly contributed to the that stadium being set for demolition. So, but anyway, I think that hopefully Claxton fans won't hold a grudge on Schley County fans like that.
Southand Academy's Lady Raiders started GIAA state playoff action today. Dropped a 14-0 loss to Trinity Christian in game 1, but what an exciting finish to game 2. The Lady Raiders take game 2 in extra innings. Scott, I know you've got some notes on who came through there in the end.
It looked like Adler Ray Owens had the game-winning hit. That was to sit there, like you said, and drop the first game and then win that second one extra innings against Briarwood. They'll play Edmund Burke at 10 a.m. in the morning. Is that correct?
That's right.
What we wrote down.
At South Commons in Columbus.
At in the Columbus complex, the softball complex. So hoping Southland can spring off of that late inning victory and take the momentum to tomorrow morning at 10 a.m.
So we want to wish Coach Blaze Hargrove and his girls the best of luck, as well as Coach Jody Sellers with the Lady Wildcats at Schley County. Got some middle school football to tell you about. The Sumter County Middle School Panthers defeated Lee County West yesterday in the middle school conference championship, 48-0. So congratulations to Coach Jonathan Gooden and the Panthers for winning that. Also understand that tonight, Schley County's middle school won their region championship.
Right. We don't know who they played, but they won.
So a lot of good things happening in our area, and that's why we're here. We like to bring you positive, factual information, and we've got a lot of that to pass along. Scott, as we wrap this thing up, your thoughts as we go into a big night tomorrow night?
Right now, it's time to build momentum. It's you want to win the games, but you also want to win them in deciding fashion and exciting fashion, and you want to win them in a way that propels you into the next week, that you don't feel like you stole a game, but you won the game.
Yeah. And we want to thank you for joining us on the Integrity Sports Podcast. Thank you for making it a part of your weekly routine. Thanks to my good buddy Logan Luton for filling in for Scott a couple of weeks ago and for providing us some information on the Lee County game. He's doing the same thing tonight down at Sumter, and he'll have some things to tell us next week on that. Thank you to our sponsors, Harper's Tree and Stump Removal, One Digital Solutions, the Marty McDonald State Farm Insurance Agency, and the Fish House Restaurant. Make sure to like and share this video with your friends. Please go to YouTube and subscribe. For Scott Westbrook, I'm Tim Estes. Thanks for watching. So long, everybody.